T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Midheaven Podcast, where we assess the stars for you. My name is Candice Marie. This is my partner in crime,
the Beast Dealer,
also known as Hades and Hermes. You know,
Sir Michael, yes.
Back, giving you guys the cosmic goodies.
All day,
How are you
every
doing?
day.
How are you doing today?
I cannot complain.
I feel like you're all ready for this episode because of the color of your shirt.
Absolutely. Be on the lookout for surprises. This is a very important transit, a redefinition of your character. And I have to ask, where were you 12 years ago? Because 12 years ago, I didn't even know about astrology. I didn't even know I was going to become the Peace Dealer. I was getting ready to rededicate my life to Jesus Christ.
12 years ago was what?
2010.
2010. Okay.
Yeah. I had just moved to El Paso after finishing my freshman year in college, University of Maryland. And that was the stage that set the awakening or enlightening that led to me meeting you 4 years later.
I know. So it went through your 12th house.
No, like
Whole time?
5 years later. No, 6 years later, 7 years later. It went through my first house. No, it went through my 12th house.
Yeah,
Whole sign,
12th
yeah.
house, yeah.
12th house.
That's a cool place for that to happen. It also made aspects to your Mars, I'm
Well,
sure.
it was coming out of Pisces into Aries. Yeah, it made aspects to my Mars for sure. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was like setting off like the spiritual journey, you know, the conquest to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of
Pre-Saturn
cool.
return. Yeah, oh yeah.
I think
No,
that
it's really interesting.
I'm trying to think back, 2010. That kind of makes sense. For me, it started a little earlier, maybe 2 years earlier than that. But I mean, Aries is my 7th house, so you know Jupiter transits are always like colorful because my moon's there. So usually Jupiter aspects have always kind of correlated for me as like a really prominent like relationship, or you know, when I had Jupiter aspects going on with my moon, I started working with Lotta. So a lot of like good things have happened. I think I like Jupiter in a fire sign, because I think that, you know, even though traditionally we like to see Jupiter in Sag or maybe Pisces or Cancer, I'm kind of a fan of Jupiter in Aries because it's got this whole like just do it factor. Like do it now. Like fuck it, we're going live. Like we don't really have a plan, but we're gonna start doing it because we're really passionate about it. And whether it's like something you're learning or somewhere you're traveling. I
That
think
really reminded me, like, now that you think of that, a lot of the stuff I initiated back then was before I knew at all what I was doing. It just did it.
Right.
Just did it. And I love that. A lot of that really, a lot of my direction in like my music career was influenced by what I did then. And I didn't know that I was doing that too. So
Yeah.
it's really dope. And this was before Uranus really went into Aries too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also very iconic now that it's in Taurus. So everything you started, you're manifesting, which is just so amazing.
Well, and things that possibly, you know, like there is, when we'll talk about this, Mars is also going to be entering into Aries as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see that that's the start of like a new Mars cycle and in the midst of a new Jupiter-Mars conjunction cycle. So I think in a lot of ways, this is kind of setting the stage in a very big way for like just individual goals and passions and like really putting them to work and like starting something, even though you may not have the plan quite yet. You're just like, nope, we're going to initiate this now.
And given Aries being part of the 4 antisocial signs, meaning they're opposite the 4 social signs from Leo to Scorpio. So Aqua's antisocial, Pisces, and Aries is one of them, a Taurus. You know, some of you are entering your villain era. Okay, you're redefining your character and you're stepping into your villain arc. And you may not have a personification of a villain, but maybe you do in a certain way, like me.
Did you bring that? Why do I feel like I saw that? Very Jupiter, by the way.
Yes.
Very Jupiter. You look like
Clown Michael.
What is it, Doc Adams or whatever?
I'm the clown in the circus. So this is my true form.
Welcome to the circus.
And this is my villain alter ego.
You look like the guy from Operation.
Oh?
on. Your mom was in medical. You know what that game is.
Oh, that game.
The one that
yeah,
made all of us like
I'm
neurotic when we were
amazing.
7, and anytime anything would zap, you would have a fucking heart attack.
I wish I got to play that game. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well,
This feels so good. My nose is like pinched, but I feel free. I feel.
where
good
did
to
you
be
even
me.
get that?
It's my magic powers. I might have bought it for $1 at Walgreens, but.
So are you like doing like
was like a
street
donation.
acts now, or like time's a little tough right now, Mike?
It called out to me, and I realized my inner clown. Expression.
I did not see that coming. That was really.
I told you, it's surprising. People
You
are
gonna
just
pull a
gonna
rabbit out of your hat or something?
out my ass, actually. I'll take it to the next
He's
level.
doing 3 shows a week.
Oh,
Tip
yes.
your cocktail
A
waitresses.
circus, my friends.
Well, I mean so. I guess that's like a good like bridge to what do you think that Jupiter and Aries, when we look at the archetypes of Aries and also Jupiter, what do you think that's gonna like bring in the world? What are you anticipating might be like a theme?
Newness. We have to keep in mind that the last time I'm watching you try and take me seriously with this. This is all.
I'm trying. I'm surprised you snuck that thing in here.
Yeah, I had it in my pocket and I was like, I'm gonna strategically move it out. I just forgot to do it the last one, so I was like, this is a red theme, so Jupiter would be perfect. But this is very important because last time in 2010 versus now, Pluto Sagittarius hadn't really awakened like they did.
Right.
This Jupiter cycle, we're gonna see Saturn return. So you got to see a sneak peek of my new alter ego, but I'm looking forward to them because they're the creators of the new world, and Jupiter is going to be trining their Saturn, so you're going to see a lot of new social movements pioneered by these kids, and you're not going to be able to tell them anything. And I just want to revisit everyone. Like, I didn't realize, but like it was the young Pluto Scorpios and Sagittarius who inspired these French and American revolutions. The last time it was there. So we might see a bit of that again.
I think you're definitely going to see that. Just being that Aries is associated with war, acts and movement and like things that might quickly catch fire or burn up or like whatever. You're taking Jupiter in a very heated, youthful cardinal sign. So I think it's going to magnify certain situations. So especially like when Mars gets in, I think that might be something that we're going to see happen. I'm always curious when planets cross 0 degrees of a cardinal sign because that's very prominent because it'll happen about every 3 years, give or take, and that will set the stage for something new that it's initiating. So it's moving out of mutable water where it's been really having lots of contact with other planets that are helping us dream, manifest, like work on like a spiritual level. And then it's almost like we're going to start leaning into our intuition going like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this now. Right. So there's some impulsivity to it. Urgency.
Lots of impulsivity, lots of urgency.
So Jupiter enters in...
To speak on that, because I like that, because you may not be aware of how intuitively led it is with the Neptune behind it.
Super, yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
And it's in the moment. So it's not like you have retrospect years later to see, so that's really key.
And I'm glad that it's happening in Aries and not in Pisces.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the Mars-Jupiter conjunction is taking place in a fire sign because it's going to actually make something happen. Mm-hmm. So,
Will Venus still be in Aries when that happens?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, snap.
You're not going to see them touch. They kiss in Pisces at the end of April. Or they did by the time you're watching this. Okay. But so Jupiter moves into Aries around May 11th, 2022. And obviously Aries is like a cardinal fire sign. So it's going to initiate something. And it's going to hang out in Aries until about the end of October, right around the 28th, I think, of October. It will come back. It'll retrograde back from Pisces into retrograde from Aries into Pisces, and then it'll come back at the end of the year. So we'll do future episodes on that. Just know that it's going to spend from about May all the way through the end of October in Aries. And
retrograding in August.
You're going to see that Mars is going to enter into Aries, with the moon.
With the moon.
That's an interesting time to look at.
That's a
also.
huge theme. We see the moon like doing a lot of
Yeah.
planets coming in the next sign, which is just what timing. That's just wild.
I think that's going to be an interesting time period in general, because where we've had all these planets in Pisces where it's been kind of sluggish or like sleepy.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, then to have
This is
Venus,
like a
Mars,
bam.
Jupiter, Moon, Chiron,
Near
like
the
holy
summer.
shit. That's like a lot of like healing personal emotional wounds. It's happening as Venus is coming into a square with Pluto.
I want to kind of touch on that again because that sluggish feeling is a real thing. Like,
Yeah.
It's not even so much sluggish as much as people don't really know what direction to go into anyway. It's like they know what they want to do, but it's this unconscious chain or fog. And
Yeah.
the 0 degree Mars is just like all
That's
steam ahead.
that's so intense when a
Yeah.
planet, especially like a planet like Mars, when it's ingressing into that 0 degrees of
stellium.
that, you know, just mark on your calendars May 25th, because something's happening like the
tune
25th,
in.
probably through the 28th or the 29th. That's triggered by the moon, but also Mars crossing Jupiter, which is really interesting because I feel like people are going to have this sense of really strong impulse that's like, I have to go and teach this. I have to go there. I have to travel. I have to learn. I think we're going to see like a real uptick in like backpacking and people who are traveling alone and seeing the world. And I think self-education is going to be a huge theme for the next 2 to 12 years. And a lot of people are going to start learning that they need to learn a trade, or they need to learn how to be more independent. And it's going to create a platform for people to go and probably bring in some kind of wealth or something from sharing with other people. Yeah.
And then Uranus in that
Yeah.
second house is like unconventional. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, like she's saying, are pioneering new things you've never seen before.
Or they're
You know, new fields,
deciding
new
that they're
lanes.
going to go and start their own educational platforms or
Right.
things based
Yeah.
off of what they know. And like,
Right.
it's got me thinking, like, if it's a DIY, learn how to fix it yourself so you don't have to like pay somebody to come into your home and fix something. If it's teaching somebody how to sew, or teaching self-defense, martial arts, anything that deals with weapons or, you know, knives, guns, all that stuff, that's very Aries.
Could even be new martial arts styles.
I think
That's
that
the new
self-defense
Pisces
is going to be a
philosophy.
huge
A huge thing.
A
Oh,
huge
yeah.
thing.
A huge thing, for
And
sure.
I also think that this will come with some kind of really prominent military mobilization that will happen. You will see that because of the Mars conjunction to Jupiter. For sure. You're going
And
to see
then
that.
we also have to remember that the last time Mars came out through here was after the autonomous zone in, I think, Seattle. And we still had a lot of protests. So, like, that energy is concluding itself. And even though the protest energy is still here, just focused towards, like, Ukraine and stuff like that, it's still going to return. So this is going to instill a whole new phase and almost pick up where we left off
Yeah.
on a lot of that
Especially
stuff.
as you see Mars ingress into Taurus and come into conjunction with
Mm-hmm.
Uranus and start to
Revolution.
activate the eclipses and square Saturn. I mean, Taurus is about physically showing up. You can't physically show up until you've taken action. So I think this transit, especially for the immediate month that I think Mars is in Aries, will initiate certain active actions by individuals, which will have repercussions. So whether that's people going, I'm going my own way, or I'm fighting back, or I'm pushing back, or I'm starting something new, by the time Mars comes into Taurus, which, you know, doesn't do as well in that sign, it conjuncts Uranus and it squares Saturn. I think you're going to see a return of in-person protests. I think you're also going to see masses of people meeting and the need to meet in person to connect in a futuristic way, connecting the masses. In many ways, it could be all this like stuff that's going on with like, you know, the metaverse, and that masses of people can go to a, you
Maybe
know,
updates that like bring it into
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's that, but I also think it's going to be the electric charge that is coming from our bodies and like how much energy our bodies produce, and like people
love that you said
realizing that
they could do more by themselves or with themselves.
they can, but you can't. And I think maybe this sounds like super conspiracy-esque, but like I think a lot of what's happened the last 2.5 years was intentional to keep people from meeting physically in person.
No, but that's a fact. It's
Knowing
just so
that-
circumstantial. It's
Yeah.
hard to like prove that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and like I said, it might sound out there for
And it's
some
still
people,
fostered
but
community, so that's why it's hard to prove that, because it's like people came together on the internet.
It did
but
on the internet
physically.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I think you also saw that, you know, it had effects in making people afraid to go out and
Yeah.
afraid to be around other people. And like, if there's anything I know that like vibration rises. So when you've got large groups of people, you know, that are positive and they're acting positively and coming together and connecting with the earth and the elements, like there's something to be said about being able to like cure depression with like adequate sleep and rest and connecting and being outside and things that may not necessarily take the pharmaceutical route. And I think they realize or they know that not allowing people to come together and support each other energetically or our disconnect from each other or the elements, that it was going to have an effect on the masses.
I 100% believe that, given that the transits we had all favored collective unity.
Yeah.
And during that period, we were separated and distanced. So
Yeah.
it's deliberate, but maybe not in the sense we may think. But
I think you're going to see
you know.
people come back together more, though, and it's going to be because
Yeah.
of personal initiatives.
Well, here's the thing. I see that, but what we also see is a blowback. And I kind of want to reference
Yeah.
right, it's that type of stuff
Well,
coming
yeah,
up.
with the square to Saturn, for sure.
Right.
You're definitely going to see
people
blowback.
fed up and
Yeah.
like not wanting. So I feel like that could be all that Aries energy
Mm-hmm.
that kind of kicks off that you can't do what you did the last 2 years again ever in your life. So like,
Well,
we'll
and the
see.
conjunctions to Chiron, I mean, there's something to be said about that. And then the Mars square Pluto ultimately before the ingress into
conjunctions to
Taurus.
Chiron,
I
for
mean,
sure, yeah.
there's definitely, I think, enough individuals getting fired up and frustrated and wanting to take action in some way that it will have a chain reaction effect down the road.
And by the way, and please tell me what you think about this, because you mentioned with the retrogrades, but 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Jupiter Cap set it off. Jupiter Aqua strengthened it. Jupiter Pisces phased everything out. Like we called this, this months in advance. By the way, we said that when Jupiter's in Pisces, they're gonna start releasing restrictions and letting things go. So like the next phase of this is Aries, Taurus, and Gemini.
Yeah.
And what do you feel about, because the Cap Aqua Pisces is like the orchestrative collective setup, but I like to see this as the true beginning. Like everything was a sneak peek to what it's really about to start.
Yeah, I also think that
Your
just
place in
this particular eclipse cycle with the Scorpio and Taurus eclipses are also very interesting because there's aspects specifically specifically
Square.
conjunct Uranus or in a square to Saturn. Yeah. So it's really reiterating like, hey, the Saturn Uranus stuff is going to happen all year. Yes, we need some structure, but we need to think about the future and be planning for the future collectively. But at the same time, we need to be willing to radically change what we're physically doing in the now. There's just there's a real clear indication that we have to do both our Saturn and our Uranus work this year. It's not like one or the other. And whenever you're dealing with it on the axis of, Scorpio, it's going to quincunx Aries. It's not going to get on well with Aries. So I'm really interested in also how the eclipses are playing out around that time, around Aries placements,
Oh yeah.
Because Scorpio and Aries, they
actually,
rub each other the wrong
considering
way.
that a lot of stuff may originate from Moon Aries, Sun Rising Aries, individuals. So
Yeah.
that'll be also really
That'll be interesting, especially because, for
Oh,
Aries,
interesting.
I mean, that's the 8th house. So it's going to bring out the need to stand up, fight, whatever, cut things off, clear stuff. I think that for the most part, though, I'm really excited because I feel like it's going to be, this is very different energy.
Oh yeah.
Now that we
very
have all these
different.
planets out of Pisces, there's going to be a lot more action, a lot more energy.
And
to,
I feel
move
like
around.
a lot out of the fog too, like a lot that was like really hidden from us.
Yeah.
We're uncovering on our own as a collective. So yeah, that too.
And it's so interesting, looking at this, it looks like Mars will be conjunct Jupiter around, the 28th, the 29th, and then 31st, so the end of
during
May.
the new moon too.
And then they start to kind of separate in June, but we will see Mars come into conjunction with Chiron, which is
Sexual healing.
worth noting. But Jupiter only gets up to,
Breakthroughs.
I think, about like, what is it, 5, 6?
8 degrees.
8 degrees?
In August.
Okay, so it'll go
Yeah.
until August, and it'll retrograde, and it'll dip briefly back into Pisces in the fall. And that's what's interesting too, is like when it does go there. Oops, sorry. When it does go there, pull this back up. My bad. It'll be like in the late degrees of Pisces.
Yeah.
So
0 degrees Capricorn, it goes back 0 degrees Aries. That's how I know 2023 is going to be like legendary. We got
Okay,
that
yeah. So
square.
it's retrograding in August,
Yeah.
and then it drops back into
Pisces and then
Pisces.
Scorpio season.
Wow, what an interesting kickoff for Scorpio season.
Seriously, oh my god.
Okay, so it's gonna be a
yeah.
while. Just like moving is really slow.
No, it still is going to go though. The opposition in Libra season will be one for the books.
I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter, Mercury stuff.
2022 is really interesting.
I think that Jupiter in the late degrees of Pisces, I think a lot of people who are really excited about the Jupiter Pisces transit, especially if you're a later degree Pisces, so like 27, 28, 29 degree Pisces or early Aries, you're going to get several passes with Jupiter over your planets. And I think the difference between the conjunctions when it's in Pisces versus Aries is Pisces is more what you're feeling, what you're manifesting, what you're praying for, what you're visualizing, what you're seeing in your dreams and your meditation. And then when it moves into Aries, it's like taking all of that belief or that vision and then putting it into action. So what do you think about that, the retrograde back and the purpose for Jupiter going back into Pisces for a period of time?
As it's there now, I mean, we're embodying, like the level of synchronization that I've been experiencing, expanding every second. It sextiles my moon, so I'm a bit, and it's squaring my sun, but I've never seen synchronicities at this level. It's like the highest level. So I feel like when it comes back, it's something to experience magic at that level versus coming back and then really understanding what I've experienced, taking stock and being like, oh, okay, like, really integrating. It's going to really integrate the experience, and that trine that's going to happen, I think, is going to be one of the most legendary trines, Jupiter trines we have at the end.
At Scorpio season?
Yeah. Post-eclipse.
I mean, that's going to be interesting too, because there's a Taurus eclipse here. So right around the 8th, there's going to be that lunar eclipse in Taurus, and that's going to sextile some of that stuff.
You're
and oppose
reevaluating and
Venus.
integrating your divinity. And, oppose Venus and...
Scorpio.
Okay, Venus and Scorpio. Okay.
Yeah, the moon, Uranus.
Oh,
moon,
Uranus
Venus.
is going to oppose Jesus
Oh my
Christ.
god, I look at those and I'm like, I don't even want to look at that.
Can you give me like a... right. Can you give me a snapshot between the conjunction of Venus to the opposition? Because that's a whole, like, season right there. That's a whole chapter.
Well, I mean, you've got moon in exaltation, and you've got, Venus
Venus.
that's in its
Moon's
detriment.
going to be
fall.
there. Oh, that's the full moon.
But I mean, that's pretty wild. I think I'm very interested in the eclipses in the fall. Like, I think I'm gonna do some webinars on it.
That
because
one's definitely more
one of the
impactful than
eclipses is
Taurus.
exactly conjunct Venus in Scorpio, the solar eclipse, and then the
Wait,
lunar.
in Scorpio? The new
Yeah,
moon?
yeah.
It's exactly conjunct
Yeah, it's
Venus?
exactly conjunct
Oh,
Venus, the
shit.
eclipse. And then this one,
Damn.
notice it's in opposition, conjunct Uranus. So, I don't know, there's like a lot of like soul karmic cutting, and there's going to be some really intense things
That's
going on with
Mercury,
money and
Jesus.
resources. And
At 29 degrees
Yeah.
Pisces,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're stepping
That's-
into the highest level of embodiment.
yeah, there's
and
some really
transformation.
wild stuff. I thought the eclipses this spring were crazy, and then I saw later this year, and I was like,
If
sweet
anything,
baby Jesus.
the eclipses this spring are the launch pad. So we're gonna see
Yeah.
everything exponentially get more and more intense. And I don't want to scare anybody, but think of 2020, 2021. Starting from that eclipse, we're gonna see that return, and not the like bad parts or good parts, but the energy is gonna return times 5.
well, it's interesting
And it's gonna
because
lead to
the
2023
new
pull-up.
moon solar eclipse that's happening in the end of April, it happened by the time you guys are watching, it's the end of April, was in Taurus. And this one is the closing eclipse, and it's got planets conjunct those same degrees. I think the North Node is conjunct it. So, and remember, like, these come in cycles. So it's not just that the new moon and the full moon, you know, eclipses happen together. It's also that it's wrapping up last year's eclipse, which I think was a bit of a false flag, because the Taurus eclipse that happened in November was great. And I look at then the eclipses and how they progress through 2022, and they progressively get more challenging. Right?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Because a lot of it is because we're dealing with so much new energy. And like...
Still the squares to Saturn.
Exactly.
And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people are like set on... Like a lot of people haven't necessarily yet agreed on how to narrate how things are. You have a lot of people who are still split on how to communicate what we're in right now. And we're going to see this come at a head so much more intensely. But with that Jupiter, there is an unexpected twist. It's like you're expecting things to resolve negatively, but it might resolve more positively than negatively. It's kind of like a false positive, or it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like
you have to pay attention to what you're thinking about and manifesting too, because like things will happen very quickly.
Very fast, yeah.
And you have all of these, you know, things happening in water, right? Like you have the Neptune, Jupiter in water, and Mercury, Sun, Venus all in Scorpio. The one thing I'm not wild about, I think, is the fact that Jupiter retrogrades back into Pisces and will square Mars retrograde in Gemini. So
it's gonna go retrograde.
Yeah, being that it's, you know...
And a lot of stuff in water is like saying things to someone when you're drunk, and then you get sober and it's like, well, I mean... I didn't really mean it like that.
And it's 9 houses away from Mars. So it's basically saying there's some like maybe like spiritual lessons playing out, or like some real divine energies that are still influencing the direction where we're going. And like mutable squares are about things changing. And I think it's easier to navigate a mutable square than a cardinal or a fixed, because that energy is already giving way to what's going to be new. So
unless you're not sober and you're not clear-minded, it'll fuck you up.
I think the lesson is going to be with, you know, with Jupiter retrograde back into Pisces and Mars retrograde in Gemini is, you know, are your actions matching like your belief system or your philosophy? There's like a lot of still trying to get some people on track with like, you know, are what you're praying for, asking for, believing, what you're telling people you're doing, like, are you really in alignment with that or with your purpose, or are you feeling like you're spinning your wheels? I feel like that's also going to still be lots of like misleading information about just health and travel and things like that, just because of the Mars retrograde in a square to Jupiter and Neptune. I mean, that's they're all retrograde. That is wholly mutable hell.
And remember, okay, Mars is going to be retrograde.
That's all retrograde. Like that makes me kind of feel like you're watching a movie and like the movie's in like another language and you're like lost in translation, because that square is like. Eeh!
And the cool thing about that is we saw Jupiter and Mars meet together in Aries, so you're starting something new. And by the time it goes back into Pisces and Mars is in Gemini, just like Candace just said, it's like you're reevaluating new actions you took. You're coming into so much more integrative understanding of how
I like that
it plays out with other people, right? So it's like, okay, hold on, look at this new stuff you did. We might need to change. You're going to change a lot of direction. You're going to see the power of what you're doing. You're going to realize, well, this is way more valuable than I thought it was. We need to readjust. We need to raise our feature price. I
think Mars retrograde is frustrating, but Mars in Gemini is very kind of frantic, right? It's kind of frantic because you've got Mars in a mutable air sign, so it's kind of all over the place. And it doesn't really have a sense of direction. And I think the one saving grace is that it is retrograding back to make a trine with Saturn. So, you know, the Mars retrograde, I think, will kind of get stabilized.
So ideas won't just be up in the air, like they can stick to something.
And I think having Mars retrograde, especially while it's in Gemini, is having us just rethink how we're communicating and making sure that we're speaking from a place of really connecting with our purpose. Or, you know, maybe people are just going to be more internal when they're thinking about their motives and like restructuring their plans. I think a lot of people are going to get to about August of this year and realize there's a plot twist in your life.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
then it's going to be, oh shit, okay, this is happening. So now we have to go back to the drawing board, or, you know, something kind of came out of the blue that we didn't see coming. But I like that it trines Saturn. I feel like it's a part of what we need to talk about and do and start thinking about or learning. Many people, I think, are going to move or relocate as a result of this as well.
You know what came up when you said plot twist? So when a lot of this energy starts, we're in the individual sign. So by the time this retrogrades back, Scorpio is everything you started. Now you're being aware of what society thinks about it or feels about it, right? So we know Scorpio's transformation, right?
Yeah.
And this plot twist, I feel like for a lot of you is becoming a villain. Like I feel a lot of people, you're awakening to who you are, but then you're realizing, wait, I was thinking I'm supposed to do this good stuff, but I'm meant to do this bad stuff. Or I was thinking I was going to be the rebel and do this bad stuff, but I'm meant to do some good stuff. And it's not really as simple as bad versus good, but I'm using that example in a classic plot twist where like someone who you never expected to switch and work for the villain is now like taking a whole new stance of how they express information and stuff like that.
This is also the final chapter of the Gemini eclipse that we had in December of 2020. So if you remember, it was either the end of November, beginning of December, we had an eclipse that was like around 18, 19 degrees Gemini. Venus has retrograded through those degrees. Mercury has retrograded through those degrees. I remember telling people when these transits were happening over the last 2 years that we are going to have a Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde, and a Mars retrograde. This is going to be huge for like all the twin flame people.
Real, yeah.
Because Mars going retrograde through Gemini, you're going to hear a lot of like twin flame readers be like, oh, the divine masculine is returning back to you, and you're going to connect with your twin flame stuff. I'm not going to say anything more
and
about
that's
that.
the Mars is going to be the activation factor that actually sparks a lot of it.
And I think that it can be very
describe that to
interesting because it is going to bring up themes of whatever was happening in December of 2020. There's
and
a lot
it's
of
back as 2012 too.
going back and being like, remember
with
we
the
talked
North Node
about
Gemini.
this, or like
Or the South Node Gemini.
replanning things or reworking things, like returning to conversations. I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
But with the squares to like Jupiter and Neptune, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are lost and kind of oh shit, like, you know, the plans are changing. Like, now what? There's a lot of pivoting, I guess is what I would say with that placement. Yeah.
A lot of people could think, oh, I was meant to be with this person, and now it's like, oh, you know.
And then it's gonna retrograde and then go direct around the end of November, and then Jupiter moves back into Aries. And that will
0 degrees Capricorn. It goes back into Aries.
Does it really?
That's how we kick it off. Oh, 28 Sag.
Okay, but yeah, it's going to be Sun
0.
square Jupiter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seriously.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah, especially because also like Mercury is coming into shadow too at the end of December. So it's like, I keep telling people like, the beginning of 2023 could be just like the beginning of 2022 if you don't get your shit together. Like whatever's going on there, it'll happen again.
2023 is a blockbuster, y'all.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Jupiter go into. I know we're talking about Jupiter in Aries, but I can't wait to see Jupiter go into Taurus. That's gonna
Ooh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's gonna be lit.
That's gonna be interesting. That new moon is gonna square Jupiter. What an interesting way to like set up Christmas, huh? That's gonna be really fun.
New moon.
And Mars is getting ready to come back into its like stationing degree pretty soon.
I always had the theory that Christmas after 2022 or 2023, they're gonna do away with like the old tradition. Like once Pluto goes into Aqua, like we won't do Christmas the same.
You think so?
I promise you. Like I don't even think we'll listen to Christmas anthems anymore. Like I remember going to like this one casino or like the airport, and like the person behind the desk was like, they keep playing this song.
I feel like people who like work at the mall and people who probably work at like the grocery store, like they hate the fucking Christmas albums because that's all you hear, you know? Yeah.
Ever.
I mean, I'm kind of a
that'll
fan.
happen every year.
I'll do Christmas in July every now and then.
Christmas in July. But I really do feel like if you think about the tradition, like we're going to see a hardcore forced pivot. Like they're going to try and force you to embrace a whole new spin. Like Santa Claus is going to be gay, y'all. I promise you. They're going to make Santa trans or gay.
If they try to say Santa's trans or gay, they're not going to let anybody sit on Santa's lap. That would not fly. Do you know
or
how
Santa
many
might
moms...
be now Christina Kringle or something like that, like a Santa Clausness or Mrs. Claus.
What about Mrs. Claus?
Yeah,
Maybe Mrs.
that
Claus
could be
should just
it.
start kind of coming out.
They gonna change the tradition, and I'm not gonna say that's good or bad.
I would feel like, I mean, I guess I would say that would
This
think
could
that
be,
would be more like
2022
Pluto
could be the
and
last
Capricorn,
year.
but
Could be the
if
last
anything,
year.
Pluto and Capricorn has made people more Christmas crazy. You can't even go to the store in September without seeing fucking
No, that's a
Christmas
fact.
trees.
That's a
And
fact. Yeah.
we have like documentaries about guys who go crazy and put all these thousands of lights everywhere, and like people
Seriously.
like end up hating them because they're angry about his Christmas spirit.
No, but like,
I thought Pluto and Cap would kill Christmas.
this is the last year. I feel like 2022 is the last year we will ever, because by the time we have this next year, Pluto will be in Aquarius.
Can we go to like Pagan Yule? I would be really nice for like the pagans to be able to take back their holidays.
I really believe paganism is going to resurge.
It might.
I really think so, and they're going to take back everything. And
They should.
It'll be an organic way because it's already a community for it, and so many people are so
Pagans
desensitized.
like to party. They're some of my favorite people.
Bring back Saturnalia and Ishtar.
Yeah, and like Yule, like I love making Yule logs. That's one of my favorite things to do. Like I like to like make one and then put it in the fireplace and then burn it for like the first fire of the year and like kind of cleanse the house. But
Right, that's awesome.
I don't know.
Winter solstice.
I think it's going to be a really interesting year because we don't need to get into it, but Jupiter moves very quickly, especially when it's going in between the two signs. So you want to make the most of Jupiter's ingress with Mars. That's when you want to start something, even if you haven't figured out how it's quite going to work out yet or whatever. Like that cycle, there could be some really interesting election dates with that Mars Jupiter aspect for starting something new and very innovative that could be successful.
And that's the thing, you may not know it's 12th house to Uranus, so you wouldn't even know that what you're doing is innovative, the next big thing. Like when in Cedric Ave, when hip hop was created during Leo season, they didn't know it was going to be a multicultural worldwide thing, you know what I mean? Social media, Facebook, like know that you're starting it, whether it's as popular or not. And what we want to make a distinction of is this is not the official Jupiter Aries transit. 2023, December 23rd, 2022 is going to be the official Jupiter Aries transit. And so catch us back then, where probably season 3 we'll do a special what is it going to be for your sign.
We'll talk more about when it's really going through your sign
and
fully.
House.
But just until, the house. Just until then, though, do look at where Aries is in your chart. Look from your ascendant sign. So look from your rising sign. That way you can get an idea. I'll just do a quick run through because we have a few minutes still.
Yeah.
So Jupiter going through Aries, if you're an Aries rising, it's going to be crossing your ascendant. So you're starting a new 12-year cycle. This is great for fresh starts, great for new opportunities to make changes in your appearance or just be more optimistic. It's a great time for travel as well. Second house?
Money, 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 money. When Jupiter went through my second house, I created my online shop, which has led to my financial independence. So yesterday's price is not today's price, and you evolve your self-esteem and your worth, and it's a good look. It's a good money.
And that would be for Aquarius?
That would actually be for
Pisces rising. Pisces rising. Okay, so we're going backwards.
Original value.
So for Aries, it's your
value.
first house. For Pisces and Pisces rising, it is going to be your second house.
And Chiron is healing how valuable you feel. So this is you really not backing down on what you're worth.
Yeah, focusing on your worth.
Don't stop giving people homie hookups. Stop.
For Aquarius and Aquarius rising.
I know an Aquarius, Jess Hilarious, who has a podcast called Reckless Conversations. Third house Aries.
That's so great.
Yes, it's amazing. It's genius because they be going in. It's very raw. It's very vulgar.
They may start
and it's real.
blogs or podcasts or maybe get a new vehicle.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more like weekend trips going on, or you're learning a new language.
New skills too, new languages. Yeah, which is lit. I love that. And then the Capricorn Rising. 4th house, you can move, you can be renovating your inner world, but it's also redefining who you are privately with people. I think some of y'all are so public focused and 10th house conscious.
Yeah.
You'll nurture yourself in ways where you're not as hard on yourself as you used to be. You allow yourself to be more vulnerable.
You might return back home to your homeland or visit your family more or expand your house.
This actually happened to me in the 4th house. I randomly wasn't planning to, went back to Nigeria, and a week later my grandma died.
Wow.
Yeah, buried her, got all sorts of ancestral downloads and wisdom, and then as soon as Jupiter left, they went to Virgo, went back to America.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real. It's some real shit.
So for Sag and Sag rising, then it's going to be going through your 5th house, which is really exciting because yeah, you can have a baby, you can get pregnant, that's for sure. But also it can be creative projects. It is your chart ruler though. So yeah, pregnancy is possible, falling in love is possible, creative work.
Falling in love with a passion that you like to do. It'll definitely. I started shooting more music videos when it was in my 5th, and like, had more fun with that. But Jupiter in the 5th is also for you creatives. Your subscriber account significantly boosts because it's opposite the 11th.
You'll probably take more trips too, because that could be like
for fun,
holidays
right?
and vacations for fun. Yeah, for sure. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, this is going to be going through your natal 6th house. So this is going to be all about health, wellness, possibly starting new fitness or diet routines.
Integration.
Getting a new pet maybe, focusing more on just your cleanliness, keeping things up, organized. You might have to hire people if you have your own business, or you might be starting a new health or wellness business or giving some kind of service to the world.
I like Scorpio because that 6th house Aries means y'all do everything on your own. Mm-hmm. Even if you work with a team, like you're very individually focused in how you behave, you know, which is very powerful. Like you do your work on your own terms. So I think that's gonna like redefine how much more power you take back from, you know, how you make a living, which is dope.
For Libra and Libra rising, this is gonna be through your 7th house. So that's
9th house.
Super.
Oh no, you're right. 7th house. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? No.
Relationships.
So it's a big year for relationships, partnerships. New relationships can come into your life, romantic, marital stuff. There can be people who get married, get engaged. You meet the person that you do that with. Counselors, mentors, or a new astrologer. That could be something else.
Most of y'all will start to individually bring yourself and present yourself forward and perform yourself more.
Yeah.
Even if you're a performer who does this for a living, it's like you're bringing a new aspect to yourself to people in relationships, because now your dream life is more real again, and there are fantasy elements to your character that you live now. So people are going to see the new you.
It's exciting.
Oh yeah.
For Virgo and Virgo rising, this is going to be your 8th house.
Yeah.
Sugar daddy transit.
Oh.
Sugar daddy
Dark
transit.
arts and the occult too.
But also, that, like, lots of, like, learning about, like, you know, like, sexual healing or maybe, like, tantra.
Yeah, that's real.
Could also be a time where you're just investing more money in your home and your family, because Jupiter rules your 4th. So there can be an inheritance. Somebody can pass. You can get money or property. But you could also put money into a home with a partner.
Yeah, shared resources, intimacy, investments. Now, in Aries, it's going to be very quick, so you don't have to hold on to it that long, too. Very quick flips.
Yeah.
Very quick flips, because y'all the hustlers, right? So you're going to know who to invest and build partnerships with and to draw those boundaries. You just got to be a bit of a gangster and not let people, like, play you. But because people take Virgo's kindness for weakness. But we have, of course... Leo, the 9th house. I like Leo because the 9th house Aries, you're evolving how you see yourself. And the philosophy, what brings narcissism to a lot of Leo, which is a positive trait, believe it or not, that self-love comes from ascending your view of yourself. You see yourself as next level. So this is going to be you really bringing that.
Yeah.
And you're going to be teaching people how to be original directly or indirectly. So
I also think that there can be lots of, like, trips on your own, like what you're learning about your belief system and your philosophy. I could see lots of, like, weekends alone in Miami.
I know a Leo that's partying in Bali right now.
Yeah, like that's definitely gonna, like, be a thing, traveling on your own.
And she made a point to say, I just like being able to travel alone. And I thought it was because she's a 12th houser, but 9th house Aries. That makes so much sense. Yeah. That's deep.
So then we have Cancer and Cancer rising. So Jupiter is going through your natal 10th house.
Career expansion.
So that's a big deal.
Congratulations,
for
Cancer.
It's finally
your
getting
hard
some
work is paying
recognition
off.
for all the hard work you've been putting off, especially work that you're doing on your own.
And people have been stealing your ideas.
Your own business, or maybe you get a new title, you get a raise, now you're the boss.
Great time to put out a project. Some of y'all gonna blow up this year.
Your own personal stuff too. So if you have this pull to be like, I don't want to work for other people, I want to do my own thing, that can kind of be supported for you as well. I could see that happening, especially with some of the aspects that you have with Uranus. You have some support from friends, so that could definitely be a thing. And just getting more recognition in the world, seeing a lot of growth in your career.
Yeah.
And for Gemini and Gemini Rising,
new friends. So what happened to me around this time was I linked up with a Pisces when Jupiter was in Pisces, who connected me with a whole social circle of 11th house friends that I know to this day. And when it went into Aries, the Aries friend in the clique, I started to connect with more. And he was a straight gangster. Like, he sold like weed and all sorts of other shit. When Uranus was there, and I realized, okay, 12th house 11, I was making friends with like social outcasts who are actually still raw and like straight gangster. But like, it really helped me understand my sense of originality with a raw group of friends, but that also you are your own team, Gemini. Even if you're alone, you still represent your...
There's still two of you, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. So there you go.
You'll never get alone.
And it's rewards from career. So a lot of you will be coming into the fun, like 10th house is accomplishment, success, but 11th house is who you celebrate that success with.
Yeah.
And it's fame. So, you know, some of y'all are going to be clouded up.
And for Taurus and Taurus Rising, it's happening in your 12th house. So I think that could be real interesting, being that Jupiter rules your 8th. And so there's lots of learning about mysticism, spirituality, psychics, like traveling abroad maybe. Learning
spiritual
more about
beliefs.
Spiritual beliefs and transformation of sexual and spiritual energies.
Here's the thing I'll say about this. It's release. So like you'll feel like you're suffocating. You'll feel like it's the end of a cycle. And when this happened to me, y'all, I didn't know it was gonna be the peace dealer, y'all. Like, I thought I was going to be a theologian. I didn't know my spiritual beliefs around Christianity were releasing. So you have to surrender, guys.
Yeah.
Because you're getting, and then Uranus is coming in. Jupiter and Taurus is gonna be crazy for Taurus rising. It's like, just like I didn't know I was going to become the peace dealer, I don't know I'm about to become Mr. Godiva, the softcore porn director, okay? And it was the OnlyFans pulling in $600,000 a month. And now I'm like, do I still want to do astrology? How am I gonna, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. It is what it is. You feel me? So
can't bow out now.
I have to say Uranus because it's something that's kind of unconventional like that. So be prepared to just let go and release of what you thought you were doing, but you're changing your belief around who you are. And you're releasing the old cycle. Congratulations.
Well, I'm really excited to see what happens. Let us know, where is this transit taking place in your natal chart. See where Aries is, or listen for your rising sign and also your sun. We'd love to hear how it plays out for you. We'll be back later in other future podcast episodes, and we'll talk about this at length as we get closer. Until then, make sure you make the most of the transit and start something new. As always, thanks for your support.
Last thing I want to say real quick is the May to November of Jupiter Aries is a sneak peek.
So we didn't say that.
Don't get so caught up on trying to figure out if you're doing it right. Take the Gary V approach and just do. Doesn't matter if you're in the wrong direction, just do it. Just do everything you can, because it'll retrograde into Pisces and you'll be like, this worked, this didn't work, this worked. Then 2023, it's a wrap. You move forward.
I'm excited to see what happens. It's going to be a nice sneak peek. So, join our memberships. Thank you. It helps us buy alcohol and keep the podcast going.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you guys are liking these. We're creating these for you. We're a 3-man team. We're self-funded. So please make sure you hit the like button or give us a thumbs up or leave us a comment. Otherwise, we will be back soon. You guys take care.